I joke and I kid because deep down inside, buried underneath expectations, responsibilities, and financial debt, we are all still kids. We are the children who survive in a world that sometimes seems to focus on separation. But maybe that's why orthodontists invented braces. As children, we quickly learn what friend groups we are or are not associated with. We also learn that different shades of skin are accompanied by different life expectations. But something we sometimes always forget is who we are, what we stand for, and why we matter. I even questioned myself a few times while writing this speech. You can ask my wife. She'll definitely tell you. But it wasn't until I returned to being me, a person who is silly during serious times, someone who finds it hard to write lines on a page that do not rhyme, and a friend who doesn't like to leave other friends behind, that I found the courage to share my talents with the world. So, hello. I am Jeremiah. I am Mr. Martin. I am a victim of segregation, separation, and mixed representation. I am just like you, a human being. And with every single feeling in my body, I wish for you to be the best version of you that you can be. When we are who we are, we can achieve anything. During undergrad, I encountered a blackface poetry book, which is basically a person who is not of color writing as if they are a person of color. I'm going to recite a poem I wrote in response to reading the blackface poetry book that left me feeling ostracized and devalued. My poem is titled Interpolation. Interpolation. Blackface. Oh, you want to be me. Steal my skin and complicate sun ray enlightenment. But you cannot colonize without acceptance. I have to open the door to let you in. What I create, simple, because it's my life. Introduce you to something beautiful and you want it because you admire its worth. Married since birth, can't be torn apart. Monetize my art while asking me to play a part, a role, a character. As I roll with punches thrown with ill intentions, I notice those that oppose fail to make connections with melanin. Instead of saving face, they try to replace. But I am one of one, someone, something that can't be erased. Outsiders can only hope to imitate. What a disgrace. I began my collegiate journey as a non-traditional student. I feared being reviled by peers because of my age, lack of financial means, and cultural differences. When I first heard of K-pop, I thought, Pepsi invented a new flavor? The pop group music I grew up listening to included Britney Spears before she shaved her head, Jay-Z singles before we ever knew the color blue could be a name, and whatever song time would allow us to add to our MySpace page. So when I first stepped foot on a college campus, I knew my life would forever be changed. I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed until I realized some of my classmates did not view education the same way as I did. I mean, for them, education was not a means to get your family out of poverty or be accepted. I mean, look at me, 30-something, returning to college because I wanted to prove to previous employers that I deserved to be promoted. I wanted the people who believed in me to see me at the top. But every time I saw new heights, hope's crescendo dwindled like a lightning bolt attending electricity's funeral. The only success I ever found was through a pen and a page. I could write words that made people laugh, feel emotions, and critically think. But I have yet to write a song, story, or poem that helped me get out of debt. My sonnets were not viewed as knowledge. So I looked to higher education as a means to mentally escape. Now, don't get me wrong. Most of my classmates were pretty friendly. And they were even friendlier once we met in person and not on Zoom. When we view each other from a camera lens or a black box, we only see what one wishes to display. We could wear makeup, upload mythical backgrounds, or post a perfect photo to represent us in our absence when we are not awake. When we interact with each other face to face, all flaws are up for public debate. I can tell by looking at some of you that most of you took a shower this week. But what I cannot see is how special you felt when you finally saved up enough money to purchase that perfect shampoo that matches your personality and perfume after working 4 days a week and turning in assignments when they were due. I cannot see how much $20 means to you. Nor can you see how tiring it is for me to drive 80 miles to campus 5 times a week. I tell you, you get really tired of listening to Jay-Z singles and mentally feel like you should shave your own head pretty fast. But in the struggle we all face, we tend to get lost in taking who and what we see at face value. We are not who society wants us to be, but we are society. We are not who society wants us to be, but we are society. Heck, sometimes we are not who we wish ourselves to be. Maybe you were told you should be a doctor instead of a teacher, but deep down inside, you find great joy in helping others accomplish their goals. Maybe you were told you should be an engineer instead of a jazz musician, but that person did not understand how rhythm's heartbeat pulsates beyond flat lines. We all look in the mirror and see cracked outlines. But what if we could just be? Be happy. Be ourselves. Be undefined. Be refined. Be obtuse and inclined. What if we could be accepting of each other? And I do not mean to be politically correct. I am asking, what would a world full of wounded people look like if we all saw each other as one another in pain? I bet Band-Aid would surpass a few companies on the Fortune 500 that day. I would like to proceed by modeling an example of growth on my behalf by restating a more inclusive and accepting version of my poem, Interpolation, titled Interpolation Revised. Blackface, you just want to be me. Steal my skin and complicate sun ray enlightenment. But you cannot colonize without acceptance. I have to open the door to let you in. What I create is simple because it's my life. Introduce you to something beautiful and you want it because you admire its worth. But we've been married since birth and can't be torn apart. Monetize my art while asking me to play a part, a role, a character. As I roll with punches thrown with ill intentions, I notice those that oppose fail to make connections through acceptance. Instead of appropriation, practice patience. We are all one of one, someone, something that can't be erased. Provide outsiders with hope. We all benefit from love's embrace. The word interpolation means the insertion of something of a different nature into something else. Kind of like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole when all you needed in the first place was a bigger sphere. We all have different surface appearances, but we all need food, shelter, and oxygen. We all have different surface appearances, but we all need food, shelter, and oxygen. I am not a computer engineer, but if I were to stand here and proclaim to be the creator of TikTok, you all would not believe me. But if I were to state that I'm a fantastic poet, that may be a little bit easier to believe. So why is it that you would accept me as a poet, but not as a computer engineer? Well, that answer's simple. I have been rhyming ever since I walked up here, and I have not typed one piece of code. See what I did there? A poet writing in code. I'd like to close by stating that if we are to practice inclusion, then we have to be willing to let each other be. In the poem, I mentioned blackface and melanated skin. One is natural. The other can be seen as satirical or trying to fit in. I want you all to be comfortable in your own skin. I want you to be so comfortable with being yourself that you do not hinder others in being the best versions of themselves. Shine your light so bright that you illuminate others. We are all sun refractions. Therefore, if you shine, we all shine. We all hurt in different ways. We all have felt unaccepted, excluded, or out of place. Find your safe space, and you will find your people. I am not the best at math, but I do know that a pen and a sheet of paper can create equal.